Borden took an axe and gave her mother 40 whacks, and when she saw what she had done, she gave her father 41. Hello guys, namaste, welcome back to my channel. This is Amisha Singh Chauhan for the ones who don't know me. And by the way, most of you guys, like 50% of you people watch my video but haven't subscribed to my channel yet. I mean, what are you waiting for? It's gonna motivate me so that, I can work harder, create more beautiful contents. So subscribe to my channel right now. And since you guys are subscribing to my channel, do not forget to hit that bell icon so that every time I'm here, you'll get to know about it. So like y'all can see, I'm barefaced. I'm barefaced. I mean, not barefaced, but bareface. You getting it? You getting my joke? Okay, it's silly. I shouldn't do that. Anyways, so I'm barefaced, and like the previous video, I'm gonna do my makeup. But again, this is not a makeup tutorial. But if you makeup guys are interested as to what products I'm gonna be using, I'll put the list in the description box. So let me shut my makeup mouth and start with the murder. In the previous video, I spoke about a murder case where the parents were under suspicion of their daughter's killing, right? But today, it's gonna be quite the opposite. I shouldn't have told you guys, but anyways, let's move on. So today we're gonna talk about the Bordens. The story backs to 1800s, like around 1892. So these Bordens, they were from Fall River in Massachusetts, United States. So they were like kind of American royalties, elite, well-bred, educated, super crazy rich. You're getting my point, right? So the family, the Bordens, included the daddy Borden, that is Andrew Borden, and his second wife, Abby Borden. And with his first wife, who was dead, he had two daughters, Emma, who was 41 years old when this incident took place, and the second daughter, the younger one, was 32 years old. And mind you guys, both were spinsters. They weren't married, so yeah, very virtuous and educated and high society spinsters. And they had a very religious upbringing, Sunday schools and stuff. In fact, both the daughters, they were Sunday school teachers. Emma discontinued and she started doing charity and stuff. But Lizzie, she was still a school teacher, like Sunday school teacher in her church. So apart from these four, they also had their live-in maid. Her name's Sullivan, and she was an Irish immigrant. And she was around 25 years old when this incident took place. Apart from the Bordens, there was also Mr. Morse, their uncle, who had just came to visit them for a special affair, which we will cover in near future. Anyways, I'm so sorry about the dogs. I cannot just help it. Like, they have to bark all the time, especially whenever I'm shooting. Like, they just know it. So on August 4, like usual, Daddy Borden, that is Andrew, he went out for a walk around 9 o'clock in the morning. And by the way, during this entire murder incident, Emma wasn't in the house. Like, she was 15 miles away from the town, vacationing somewhere else. Even Lizzie was, but then she returned back. Okay, so Emma wasn't home, and Uncle Morse, he around 8 o'clock in the morning, he left the house to buy some stuffs and to visit his niece in the same town, and he said that he would come back around lunch. So Andrew's out for the walk, and around 10:30 a.m. he comes back. He tries to open the door, but the door isn't opening. Like, he uses the key, but the door's jammed. So he rings the bell, and then Sullivan comes in and she tries to open the door. But then, yes, like I said, the door's jammed. So she cussed out. Later on, after a lot of wriggling and stuff, the door finally opens. Now, Lizzie enters the scene and she helps her daddy sit down on the sofa. He was very tired, and also the entire family, including their maid, Sullivan, they all fall sick just a couple of days before the murder took place. When Andrew was taking nap, she told Sullivan that there was some sale in the market and she should check it out and buy some stuffs from there. But then Sullivan was feeling very, tired, and it was a very hot day then. So she was like, no, I'm just gonna go upstairs and take some, rest in my room, and if you need some help, then call out for me. So Sullivan goes upstairs and she's taking nap. Now, around 11:30 sharp, she hears Lizzie's voice from downstairs screaming at her, "Maggie, come downstairs, somebody killed father and he's dead." And that's it. So as soon as Sullivan hears that, she comes running downstairs and there she sees Andrew Borden on sofa. His entire face was battered and like you couldn't even, contemplate that it was him. It was that bad. Oh, by the way, I missed the part. So when Andrew came in, he asked about his wife Abby, and Lizzie told him that messenger came in and delivered a note where she was summoned by her sick friend. So she left for that. So when this entire thing, when she realized that her daddy was murdered, she asked Sullivan to go upstairs and check. She thought that most probably her stepmother would be back from her friend's house. So Sullivan goes upstairs and she doesn't even reach the second floor. Like she was on the staircase when she saw Abby in a pool of blood, like in her pool of blood, and she was dead too. So immediately the family physician was called and he came in and he checked, like obviously they were dead. And the father was still bleeding. So obviously it hadn't been long that, he was murdered. So the police comes into the picture, obviously, and they start their investigation. Now, during their investigation, when they were interrogating Lizzie, the entire time she was contradicting her statements. Sometimes she was like, "I heard a groan, I heard someone mumbling, and that's why I came in the living room and there I saw daddy lying there on the sofa." But then sometimes she would be like, no, I came out from the barn and as soon as I entered the house, I could, feel something was wrong, and she came in and saw him dead. So she was contradicting her statements. Also, there was another thing that this entire time, like during this interrogation on the very day of murder, she looked very calmed and she was very poised. But then again, we have to remember that we are talking about American royalties over here. Another thing, though police said in their statements that they did investigate Lizzie's bedroom, but they didn't do it thoroughly because they had no suspicion on her and they didn't doubt her. They didn't even check her dress for any blood stains, which they should have done. Lack of diligence and, carelessness by the police. And frankly speaking, because of these, carelessness and small things that they should have checked, the case remains unsolved. So moving on, they do their investigation and in the basement of the house, they found some weapons. Like not exactly weapons, like they found 2 axes and 2 hatchets and 1 hatchet without a handle. During the autopsy and postmortem and everything, it came into the report that they were murdered using a weapon like a hatchet, and probably the murderer removed the handle from the last hatchet because there might be stains and some fingerprints and stuff like that. So they were really battered, like the dead body. So okay, if I have to go in detail, Abby, she was facing her murderer when she was hit with the hatchet because she had a cut just above her ears and she turned around and fell on the floor like facewards. That's why she had contusions on her nose and eye area. Whereas on the other hand, the daddy Borden, that is Andrew, he had one of his pupils like cut in halves, like literally in halves, which we can conclude as he was sleeping when he was attacked, and he was attacked 10 times, whereas Abby was hit on her head 17 times. It was that brutal, and I don't even know like how could a human do it, Lizzie or not. Like whoever did it, that person really had to have some sort of deep grievances. So yeah, now that was the thing, like that is what people concluded. The police came into conclusion that it happened. Now on August 8th, the mayor and police officers, they came into the Borden's house and informed Lizzie that she was the prime suspect behind her father and stepmother's murder. So they inquest her, and during the inquesting she requests for a private, like a family attorney, but then that gets declined, and in the end it concludes with her being arrested and put in the jail. So one of the other thing that took place was one of their friend, Miss Russell, she was living in the house with the Borden sisters. Emma came back after the murder. So she told the police in her statement that on August 7th morning, she saw Lizzie burning one of her dresses, and when she asked why she was doing that, Lizzie answered that, the dress had caught paint and it was of no use, so that's why she was burning it to produce heat. Okay, well, fine. It was hot day. I don't understand why she was burning her dress to, heaten up the entire house. It's kind of silly. Pretty obvious. So Lizzie was in the jail for more than 9 months, like almost 9 months. And during this time, there were a lot of speculations against Lizzie, but also a lot of federations and especially people from high class. They came in forward and they stood up for her. They were like, how could a well-bred, virtuous Protestant nun do something so heinous to her own parents? Like, that was so immoral. And of course, we know that people who are religious cannot commit crimes, like even then and even now. Like, I mean, it's pretty obvious. People who are into religion do not commit crime. It's sarcasm, if you guys couldn't get it. So anyways, there were a lot of feminists who came in front and they were like, this is patriarchy. They are just blaming innocent, religious Protestant nun. And how could such a fickle lady hold that hatchet and smash someone's head for 17 times and then 10 times? Like, it's not possible. This is not me saying, this is what people came up with. Exactly. And you have to remember that she came from a very poised and posh family. So obviously, all the people from the higher class, they were rooting for her to come out as innocent because, again, they have to save their names. So yeah, they were into investigation. Now, Sullivan, she gave out a statement saying that when the doorbell rang and Sullivan came downstairs to open the door and it was jammed, she cursed out loud. And immediately she could hear Lizzie laughing at it. Now, she couldn't see Lizzie exactly, but she could make out that most probably it came from the second floor. So now, if Lizzie was on the second floor and Daddy was on the doorstep, then by the time Abby was already dead. And if she was on the second floor, then she obviously must have seen the dead body. Now, that is very strange. Another strange thing that took place was the town physician, he came up front and he said that Lizzie had actually asked and inquired about an acid which is very harmful. So when she was asked why she was, inquiring about some particular acid, she came up in defense saying that she was actually looking for it to clean her cloak. Now, this could be the same acid that she could have used to poison. You remember I told you guys that all of a sudden everyone got sick. Now, the physicians say that it might be meat, but we don't know. Like, it could be a poison. Now, then again, it was 1800s. The forensic investigation wasn't that strong and detailed and, not that scientific. Another thing was when Miss Russell's statement came up about that, burning dress, the defense never actually counterattacked that statement, which was very strange. So what happened at the end of 9 months was a jury was set. Now again, the feminists, they came up front and they were against this jury because then again, this was a time where women weren't allowed and they did not have the right to vote. So imagine, I could understand the situation, like the entire men jury was going to be ruling out or ruling in Lizzie in this case. So the jury sat down. Now, because of lack of evidence and because things didn't just sink, they ruled out and she was acquitted. So in the end, she came out as innocent and the court of Massachusetts decided that they are not gonna suspect anyone else anymore. Yes. So now we know that Lizzie was acquitted of this crime, of this entire murder case, and she came out as innocent. But people were still speculating. Now, I'll tell you why. There were a lot of speculations as to why Lizzie killed her parents. One of them was that people believe that Andrew was physically and sexually abusing his daughters, especially his younger daughter Lizzie. And now in retaliation and so as to take revenge, she murdered her father and her stepmother. The second theory that people came up with was that Lizzie was lesbian and she was caught by her stepmother doing things with her live-in maid Sullivan, and now these two, as in Lizzie and Sullivan together, they decided to kill Abby. And later on, when they went to the father and told him about the entire incident, he obviously got really mad, so they killed him too. Now it is kind of silly, like why would they go to the father and tell them like, you know what, we killed your wife, I'm so sorry. And what they were expecting, that the father would be like, it's okay, it happens, it's everyday instance. Like I don't know if I should believe in this, but it does make sense, because for a second, I mean, because she never married, but then Sullivan did marry eventually a man, and there were not really incidences and valid proof that concluded that, you know, they were homosexual. Other theory comes up that this entire time it wasn't Lizzie who murdered her parents, but Emma. So people believe that since there were a lot of witnesses who came up front and they told everyone that, you know, we saw Lizzie in the barn around the time when Andrew might have been murdered, it could be Emma who was hiding inside the residence and found the exact perfect time and she killed her parents. Now, why would Emma do that? Reason being that ever since Abby and Andrew married each other, Andrew was gifting a lot of his properties to his new in-laws, especially his sister-in-law. Now, that is a very shady part. Also, remember that Uncle Moss was in the house just a day before he came in to see his nieces. The reason was because there was a lot of tension in the family because of property and money. The girls were really worried about, you know, this entire thing. So they have a very good solid reason to actually kill them. But okay, it's fine. Now, another silly part is that Emma and Lizzie, especially Lizzie, had these pet pigeons, which Andrew killed all of these pigeons using a hatchet because he was worried that a lot of neighborhood kids were coming in their houses and, you know, hunting them. Now, it's a very silly reason to kill your parents, but you never know, there are a lot of psychopaths and sociopaths going around. So yeah, it is a moot point. We don't know who killed it. Like, we know who killed it, we don't know, I don't know. If you ask me, I believe that it could be Lizzie who murdered the parents, not because of the lesbian thing or incest part, but more or less I feel like she and her sister, they were worried that their father is gonna just sell off everything and lose everything to the in-laws family, and in the end they will not get anything. And I don't know, so they decided to do this entire thing. Maybe Sullivan was involved, because you know what, when Sullivan was dying, like when she was on her deathbed, she confessed to her sister that she changed her testament during the trial so as to protect Lizzie. Now, it doesn't make sense that why would a person confess or even lie, you know, the last seconds of his or her life. So if she was protecting Lizzie, what was she protecting Lizzie from? And what was the statement that she said she changed? It doesn't make sense, because she was actually against Lizzie's defense and she was trying to, you know, stand for the part that it was Lizzie who committed the crime. Now, there is another speculation that it was Sullivan who actually murdered just because she was very tired and Abby was being a biatch and, you know, slaving her. Now, again, it is like too much. But then again, you don't know what kind of people go around. Now, that reminds me to the part that Lizzie and Emma, so after the entire trial and after Lizzie was acquitted from the crime, they left their old house, which was in a very modest locality, in a very modest neighborhood. They always wanted to have a very luxurious life. Obviously, they could afford it, but then the father was very, you know, humble and very modest. So they sold their old house and they got this huge mansion in the upstate side of the town, the hill exactly where other Bordens were living. And they had lived a very luxurious life until both the sisters separated in 2 years. And for next 22 years, they never saw each other again. And Lizzie died a couple of days before Emma did. And Lizzie died because of pneumonia. Now, both the girls, they never married, and before their death, they left all their property to, you know, charity and their cousins out there. So, I mean, it always happens that in these cases, the police show lack of, and they'll miss out important evidences which could have, you know, convicted her, but then, what to say? Now, what do you guys think like happened? What are your theories and speculations? Do you think it was Lizzie who killed her father and stepmother, or was it Sullivan, or was it Emma, or was it Uncle Moss? But why would he do that? Why don't you guys tell me what do you think happened? So that was all for today's murder and blood and crime and all that talk. I would love to know your opinion. Also, another thing is, you guys can suggest me any murder case or any crime or anything spooky that you think that I could cover in my next video. I would love to know about them as well. So you can either comment down in the comment section or DM me directly on my Instagram handle. I would love to hear it from you and do it as well. Also, do not forget to subscribe to my channel if you haven't. You've come this far. The least you can do is at least subscribe to my channel and also hit that bell icon so that every time I'm here, you'll get to know about it. And do not forget to follow me on Instagram. Bye bye. See you again with another video next week.